Welcome to Blind Abilities. I'm Jeff Thompson. Today's episode is from Woodworkers for the Blind, and that's ww4b.org, where you find a bunch of woodworkers teaching, learning, and sharing a bunch of how-to-dos and some projects that they're working on. They like to mentor, they like to share, and they like to learn. And they could be learning from you. If you're blind, low vision, and thinking about woodworking, check them out, ww4b.org, Woodworkers for the Blind. There's something for everyone. So I'm going to share this podcast episode. This is with Wes. And Wes has a YouTube channel called Woodworking with Wes. And he does a good job of describing what he's doing on those YouTube channels, so check it out. And now, let's check out the podcast. Woodworkers for the Blind presents Wes from the YouTube channel Woodworking with Wes, sharing years of experience and mentoring woodworkers from around the world. And you can find Woodworkers for the Blind on the web at ww4b.org. A lot of blind and visually impaired woodworkers sharing ideas, thoughts, projects, and a lot of how-to-dos. And now our host, Daryl Vickers, will take it away.
In fact, I told somebody one time, there's not a mistake you can make in the shop that I haven't tried 3 or 4 times. Don't be afraid to step out there and make some mistakes and learn a few things. And woodworking is supposed to be fun. Let it be fun. Don't be afraid to waste a little wood once in a while. Obviously, we try to build out the very best that we can. Woodworking is an adventure. Don't give up on the adventure. Go to woodworkingwithwes.com. That's what I really want to help with, is people that want to know more about woodworking.
All right, welcome everyone. I'm going to go ahead and get this started. We're right at 7 o'clock Central Time pretty much. I want to welcome everybody on the call. Sounds like we got a few people tonight. And my co-host, Jeff. How you doing there, Jeff?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Not too bad.
That's good.
Jeff's a lot more than that. He makes all this stuff sound, makes me sound a little better anyway.
You're sounding good right now, talking about me.
I'm really excited tonight. We got Wes from Woodworking with Wes, who has a YouTube channel that I've been following probably for a little over a year that I really enjoy. And before I bring him in here, I just want to touch on a couple things. Our Woodworking Small Box Challenge, I think we got 6 total entries. That was pretty good. That closed on September 15th. So I'll be putting something out somewhere in the next week or two about the descriptions of each box, and then I will let everybody know who they picked as a winner for each category. So I appreciate everybody who took the time to do that. It was a lot of fun. You know, I didn't hate it quite as much as I thought I would. So, okay, Mr. Wes, are you on the call, sir?
I am.
Well, hi, Wes.
Very happy to be here.
Well, I'm thrilled to have you. I'm actually really excited because I really enjoy your channel. I can just tell you know what you're doing.
Well, thank you very much. I'm excited to be here with you this evening.
Well, great. I'm going to just jump right in and just ask you a couple simple questions here.
Very good.
Like, how did you get started in woodworking, or how long have you been doing it and that kind of thing?
I have been a woodworker my whole life. I'm 70 years old, and I started when I was 20, so I've been doing it for 50 years. I got started almost by accident. I had a job that I hated. I went to church on Sunday, and somebody stood up in one of our meetings and said they're hunting for apprentice cabinet makers, and so I went over on my day and applied. I got the job, and I've been stuck ever since.
Oh, wow, that's pretty cool.
And I've enjoyed it ever since, too.
So have you always been working as a cabinet maker? What kind of stuff did you create?
I started off, the job that I got was in the residential kitchen cabinet industry, and I spent probably 99% of my career in that field. I did work in the commercial end of cabinets for a while for one shop that I worked at. And then, of course, as you build cabinets, you also get the opportunity to build furniture, and that's my real love. I love to build furniture more than anything, but cabinets is where I made the money.
Right. Well, that's really cool. And it's interesting how you got started. It comes to everybody in different ways.
Yeah.
So I think you are in Utah, is that right?
Yes, I'm in southern Utah.
So watching your channel, I know you've just got a new shop. Is that because you relocated?
Yes, I moved from northern Utah to southern Utah, and my wife allowed me to steal our 3-car garage and turn it into my wood shop. So I put my shop together, and I have all my tools set up, and I'm adding to them a little bit as I go along so that I'm a little more at ease with what I have to work with, and upgrade a little bit as I get a chance. But it gives me an opportunity to play in the woodworking all along and continue to do it, because once you start woodworking, you never want to retire. That's the one thing that I have talked to other woodworkers about, is they never want to retire. They want to work until they just can't work any longer because they love it. And I'm the same way. I just love what I do.
Yeah, it really shows in your YouTube channel. And I think you're absolutely right about that. I haven't been doing it that long myself, only about the last 20 years maybe. I actually I did construction and stuff when I was younger, but then I just gave all that up when I lost my sight. And then I found Larry and Woodworking for the Blind, and that kind of got me all started up again. So when I watch your videos with your new shops, you get a chance to buy some new tools?
I bought some new tools, and then, of course, like I say, I'm always constantly upgrading. Just to give you an idea, I bought a new dust collector just a couple of weeks ago. I haven't even had a chance to get it wired in and ready to go, and that's kind of always everybody's little deal. You know, they get a piece of equipment, and then pretty soon they need a little nicer piece of equipment, and I'm no different than anybody else when it comes to that. As far as their garage shops goes, I'm always trying to improve the tools that I have, because tools are part of what you build with. You know, as far as the quality of tool helps you do a more quality work that you're trying to accomplish.
That's very true. I started out buying, on the cheap with used tools, and little by little I figured out that I was able to, I got some better tools, and it does improve and make things a little bit easier for you, if you can depend on what you're using to do a good job.
It does. And I always try to start with putting my money on what I consider to be the most important. Like anybody else, or like most people that I know, the most important tool in the shop is your table saw. And so when I had my money put together for the things that I was going to buy, I spent my money on my best buy of my table saw first. And then I built the other things around it that I could use to build the things that I wanted to, but I had a good table saw to start with. Then my other tools came along to help me do the things that I wanted to. But I always tell people, whenever they're buying tools, buy the very best you can, but buy your table saw first and spend your money there to get a good quality table saw, because that's the workhorse.
That's very true. And I just recently did buy a brand new saw. I bought a saw stop. So it's amazing how much better it cuts. I thought my old saw cut pretty well, but this one does a lot better job. So what kind of saw did you end up getting?
I got a Powermatic, but a saw stop is a great saw. I've used them in the past. I worked in a couple of shops that had them, and I like them. They're very good saws. I liked Powermatic because a Powermatic allows me to use my molding heads that allow me to do some little fancier work. The saw stop doesn't work with my molding heads quite as easy. Now, molding head, if people are not familiar with a molding head is like a saw blade, only it has different cutters that you can put in it to make profiled pieces of stock as you run it across a table saw. So you could make flutes, or you could make rabbits. I did a door not too long ago that had a beaded panel in it, and I could make my beaded panel on my molding head. The saw stop that I used in the past didn't allow me to do that. And when I got a chance to buy this Powermatic, I bought that so that I could use my molding head. And it's kind of a selfish reason to buy a Powermatic, just because of a molding head, but that was my purpose behind it. Like I say, a saw stop is a great saw. If people are buying a saw stop, that's a great saw. And I love the safety feature. Now, the Powermatic does not have that safety feature. And so a saw stop has that great safety feature. And I wish the Powermatic had that. But that safety feature that saw stop has, that's number one. I love that feature.
Well, I absolutely do too, because believe it or not, I actually tested mine and had it less than a month. So I could tell you that it worked really well. It did not even actually leave a nick. I couldn't even tell that I did it, but I must have, because it trips. But I was doing a part of this small box thing. I was beveling the lid of a box, and I'd never done that before, and it was on the vertical. I just didn't realize that my thumb went down that far. So it can happen.
I've actually tripped that safety feature myself. Luckily, it wasn't with my finger. I actually hit a nail, and anytime that it breaks that electric current, it will trigger the saw stop feature. And so I didn't do it with my finger. I did it with a nail, but it works great. Even by accident, it works great.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely glad I have it.
Yeah.
Besides, as a table saw is, I don't know, it always makes me the most nervous for whatever reason. It's like everything else. So if you just take your time and practice and watch what you're doing, I sometimes tend to go too fast. Sometimes it gets me into trouble, but I doubt if I'm alone in that.
Right. I'm sure. I mean, unfortunately, I see a lot of fingers that are not all the right length. Like I say, I've been doing it 50 years and I've been very fortunate. All of my fingers are the right length. I always tell people the most important thing when you're working on any power tool is pay attention. I mean, they are meant to cut things, and they'll cut whatever you put in front of them. So just pay attention to what you're doing. And if you really pay attention to what you're doing, accidents go way down. Can't avoid them all. Sometimes they're just accident, but pay attention. Number one rule always.
Absolutely agree with that 100%. Like I said, we're going to open this up to some questions here in a little bit, but I have a question because I think you're the first YouTube guest that we've had on, and I was just wondering how you decided to start a YouTube channel and how did you get it started and maintain it and all that stuff.
I started it when I was still full-time in my kitchen cabinet business. Someone had asked me if I would show them how to build a cabinet. And I said, well, the best thing I can do is make a little video and show you. And, oh, yeah, I mean, I see videos on YouTube. And I go, what? And I got talking to some people. And actually, my stepson is the one that really encouraged us to get started on our YouTube channel. And he's kind of mentored me in the getting started, and my wife helps me. And we just kind of got started building cabinets. While I was building cabinets for a living, I was building cabinets and showing people how to do it. It grew and grew, and it's just been a lot of fun to be able to show people how to build stuff.
You do a really good job. It just comes across as easy to understand what you're talking about and things. And I've learned just a lot of things. And like I said, I haven't found your channel probably about a year ago, but I really enjoy it. And the second question I wanted to ask, because this is something I think you just knew you started, and that is your website and kind of a subscription-based service. You want to tell us about that?
Yes. If you go to woodworkingwithwes.com, you'll find a prompting there that will help you get to our subscription platform. I did that because we were getting a lot of comments asking questions on our YouTube videos. And so they would ask a question, and sometimes the explanation or the answer to that comment or the question that they were answering was more than I could do in just a return comment. So we tried to find a way to be able to give them better answers and better help with the questions that they had. So we came across this subscription platform. The way it works is you ask a question, and I make a personalized video or explanation to answer the question. So I make it specific for that person that asked the question and the question that they ask. So let's say someone asked, how do I make this particular joint? Well, then I would make a video or make an explanation of how that joint is made, where I would start, how I'd make my cuts, and in order to make that joint come out correct. And that way I can do a better job of answering their question. And so that's why the platform came into being, was I just wanted to be able to actually be a kind of a mentor. I had mentors when I was coming up through the business that took time to show me things. I wanted to be able to do that for other people, to be able to spend a little personal time. And these personal videos allow me to do that.
And I think that is like a really wonderful idea. I watched one of them on veneer, and you taught us how to take that old veneer and make it rejuvenated, which I've thrown some of that stuff away before. You made it very, very understandable. I mean, it was perfectly clear when you got done.
This platform is just getting started. We're just, like you say, it's new and we're adding to it all the time. But one of the things I'm going to be adding to that platform in the near future, we're going to have kind of a community where people can come in and ask each other questions. I'll be answering questions as best I can and always being able to do the videos that are personalized. And then I'm also going to try to build one special piece of furniture every so often that is something that I'm not going to put on my YouTube channel, that is a little more special, a little more fancy, a little more intricate in its woodworking skill, so that I have people who are interested in getting a little more advanced in their skill level. They can get on that platform and watch something that they wouldn't see anywhere else. And I'm going to do it in detail enough that they can follow through and build that kind of furniture themselves.
I think that's just an excellent idea. I don't really see anything else out there like that. I'll also tell everybody here on the call that Wes replies to every comment, even when it's just a simple thank you. I've noticed he responds to every single comment that comes out there. So I congratulate you for doing that, because that has to take a little bit of time too.
I read every comment and I try to answer every last one of them so that people know that I'm reading their comments, because sometimes the comments, that's what they're after. They're after some sort of a response, knowing that you're paying attention to what they're asking or what they're wanting to know about. And so I spend a lot of time reading and answering comments. It's just my way of connecting back with the people that are patronizing my channel and want to know more about woodworking. That's what I really want to help with, is people that want to know more about woodworking.
Yeah, like I said, that's terrific. That's just another thing that drew me to your channel. I guess I want to ask you, how long have you had the channel? Because YouTube never really tells us that anyway.
Only 4 years.
Wow, you're doing really great for 4 years. Yeah. But people like you, Wes.
It's been a lot of fun. It really has. And we've got a chance to do some fun things. And somebody told me one time, you don't really make it on YouTube unless you have your haters. Well, we have our haters too. But we try to answer them as best we can too, But it's very interesting to see people's comments and questions, and it's been very enjoyable.
We can just tell that you enjoy what you're doing. I mean, the woodworking and the teaching and instructing and so forth. You can tell you really enjoy it.
In the shops that I've worked at, and I owned my own business for years and years, and I worked in other shops also over the course of years. And that is, teaching young men and women too. I shouldn't say just men, because young woodworkers, let's put it that way, that are coming into the business, they want to be able to be taught by somebody who has more experience. When I was young, I was taught by woodworkers who had years of experience and helped me learn things. I wanted to pass that on.
Well, that's terrific. And you built a birdhouse last spring.
Right.
And it's a 6-sided birdhouse, but I couldn't understand. I got the sides, no problem. But how did you make the roof? Is the roof 6-sided?
No, it's not. The roof is just a pitch roof. So when I built the little birdhouse, I went ahead and you're making a 6-sided column. I cut it square on the bottom so that we could put the bottom on. And then I put it on my miter saw, and I just turned it and cut an angle on one side and cut an angle on the other side and just put a 45-degree pitch roof on top.
Is it kind of like just one slants in one direction, or is it like a gable kind of roof?
It's a two-sided, it's a 45-degree point on top and goes down on both sides. So like a typical house roof, it's even on both sides with a point on the middle in the top.
Well, that's interesting. You got that on a 6-sided box. I thought that's kind of what you were talking about, but that was hard for me to visualize that. And so I want to make one of these. So I like my little birdie friends, but it's like I couldn't quite get that. And I didn't know if I wanted to try to cut a 6-sided top,
That 6-sided top, that's a challenge. And I have tried that and actually got pretty close, but part of the reason that my birdhouse doesn't have it was because it was easier to build the other kind. So, sometimes we take the path of least resistance.
Good. I'm glad to know that I'm not the only one who does that.
I don't know every last thing. I know a lot, but I don't know every last thing. Sometimes you just do what you can get away with. No, I shouldn't say that. That's not the right way. I did it so that whoever was following along building the birdhouse didn't get more complicated than was necessary. they could build this birdhouse and have it in their yard without going into the depths of woodworking oblivion, for lack of a better term.
Just go ahead and say it. Geometry math.
Yes.
That's where I'm challenged. Well, thank you. That's a fun little project, and I like to make things like that. So does anybody in the room have a question? If you do, please just state your first name and go ahead and ask.
This is Jeff.
Hi, Jeff. Go ahead, man.
Hey, Wes, it's nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you.
Been watching your YouTube channel. Good job on it. I like what you did with the toe kick. I'm building that cabinet to the floor, to the surface of the floor, whether it was wavy or high or low. I've never seen concrete that was flat. So that was good to take in how you did that. I watched a bunch of them, whether you were painting the old cabinet as if it was in the house, but it was in the shop. And one of the things that you mentioned earlier was your dust collector.
Yes.
And from what I took from it, it's mobile.
Yes, they are.
It moved around easy enough. But is this going to be stationary when you're using it? Are you hooking it to tubes or pipes and stuff? Or are you moving it from machine to machine?
It is on wheels, and I have it so that I can move it around. Because of the way my shop is set up, I like being able to have it so that I can move it around, because my jointer and my planer are on a little cart, and I can wheel the dust collector over to them, and then I can wheel it back to the table saw, and then I can wheel it over to the miter saw and hook it up to the miter saw also. So it allows me a little more flexibility with that dust collector.
Well, that's great. The other question I have, when you're doing the toe kick, there was a question I came up with. You had it upside down and you were putting the plywood. You cut like 3 of them and centered them in there. And then you just lined it up, made sure it was straight. And you just took your nail gun and went right up put 4 or 5 nails in it. And did you have a line drawn?
Well, you can. That's easy enough to do, to draw a line if you need to have one. Years of experience have allowed me to get away without a line sometimes. Building kitchen cabinets for a living, toe kicks were something that I built every kitchen, and I just got to the point where I could build them fast. And so you learn how to keep your nails lined up correctly where they go, and it's all a matter of too many years of experience.
Well, I was watching that and I thought, oh, that's a sighted way of doing it. What I've done is use a speed square and slide it down there to the spot, and then I can just bump my tip of my gun next to it because I can't see to line it up, and I just go right up the speed square like that.
That's a great way to do it. There's absolutely a perfect way to do that. It works wonderful.
I said, wow, he's faster than I am.
Well, I better be fast. I'm trying to make a living at this.
I really like listening to you. You're easy to follow, whether you can see it or not. I knew what you're doing, and you explain it well enough. And last thing I want to say here is, where can we find a wife like yours that'll give up a 3-car garage?
Well, in the lottery of wives, I hit the jackpot.
Sure did.
There you go. That's great. Thank you, Wes.
Thank you very much.
Anybody else have another question?
Yeah, this is Elias. Just a simple question. What are your top species of wood to work with for furniture building?
I like them all, but actually, if you're going to call a favorite, cherry is my favorite. I love the way it looks when it's all done. I like the way it machines. I like the way it sands. I like the way it takes a finish. And it's very universal in its application for different kinds of furniture. I like shaker furniture, and shaker furniture, the cherry is very applicable to the shaker style. I used to build shaker style kitchen cabinets, and cherry was one of the favorites that people chose. And cherry is my favorite. I like walnut. Oak is kind of out of fashion right now, but oak is a wonderful wood to work with. Again, machine's nice, sands nice, stains nice. It has a little coarser grain, and you have to deal with whatever you're doing to make sure that the coarse grain isn't an issue. The cherry has a softer grain. The walnut has a softer grain. And so basically what I do is I look at what I'm building and then decide what would be the best wood to accentuate the style or the genre that I'm trying to follow. Like I say, I really like shaker furniture, and cherry works great for shaker furniture. Cherry is my favorite wood.
Well, thank you very much for that question.
I just want to encourage everybody, be a little adventurous. Mistakes are part of learning how to do woodwork. Boy, I can't believe how many mistakes. In fact, I told somebody one time, there's not a mistake you can make in the shop that I haven't tried 3 or 4 times. Don't be afraid to step out there and make some mistakes and learn a few things. And woodworking is supposed to be fun. Let it be fun. Don't be afraid to waste a little wood once in a while. Obviously, we try to build out the very best that we can, but woodworking is an adventure. Don't give up on the adventure.
Excellent advice.
I got a question for you, Wes.
Very good.
You mentioned cherry, and I've used cherry quite a bit. I was wondering, how do you go about preventing burning cherry, and what's your process of getting rid of the burn marks?
Burn marks are typically a cause of dull woodworking blades, router bits, everything like that. Those are what causes the burns. So if you have dull cutters, then that's what's causing your burn. And you have to sand them out just by hand. I mean, if you are cutting with a table saw, then you can sand it with at least with a sander. But if you're doing a router cut and you've burnt with your router cut, okay, you got to get your fingers in there and sand them out. It's usually a symptom of time to sharpen your tools.
Thank you.
So, Wesley, you mentioned your planer, and this is Daryl again. I wanted to ask you what kind of planer you have, because I recently just had to buy a new one, and I went with the DeWalt planer, and I am not happy with it, though I think everybody in the world owns it, but I get sniped like crazy, and I don't know why.
When I went to buy my planer, I've had a DeWalt, a little bench top is what I had to buy because I don't have room for a big one. So I bought a bench top just like most everybody else has in their garage.
Me too.
I went ahead and I looked and I read, and this is something that you should do. If you go to buy tools, read the comments and do a little investigation into the tool that you're buying and try to get some feedback on what other people have experienced. The benchtop planer that I bought is an Oliver. An Oliver is a company, a woodworking company that has been around for a long time, years and years and years. But the little benchtop planer that I bought has a helical blade. So it cut, instead of a straight knife blade, like a DeWalt typically has a straight knife blade, so it kind of chunks off at a time. This helical blade has a rotary spiral blade, and so it makes a much smoother cut. It was more expensive. The DeWalt was several $100s less than this Oliver that I bought, but when I put a board through there, it comes out beautiful every time. Again, it was an upgrade from the old DeWalt that I had years ago, so I'm no different than anybody else. I'm working my way up the ladder on my tools.
All right, thank you.
That. One thing I would like to add is this platform, when you ask a question, I always tell people, give me as much information as you can so that I can be very detailed in my answer. And that way you can be better mentored and better helped in the answer that I give to your question. So if you've decided to get on and join the platform and ask questions, give me all the information that you can give me so that I can help you better. That is one of the things that I've put in my invitation. Give me all the information that you can give me so that I can help you better. So I'm very excited to be able to help anybody, and you've brought that to the forefront tonight. So if you decide to have me to join us on our platform, ask questions, give me all the information. I'll answer it as best I can, and I'm sure I can help.
I'm sure you can too. I honestly think it's a great thing. I am one of those people that redid my whole kitchen about 10 years ago. And I don't, for whatever reason I did this, but I did it in golden oak. And you've really been hurting my feelings watching all these videos with your outdated golden oak. I'm thinking I'm going to have to redo it in cherry or something.
Well, we've all had golden oak kitchens. Me too. And in fact, the last couple of houses that I had golden oak kitchens, and we've had to work our way around that. So don't feel like the lone stranger. Everybody's had one.
I wish I could see to do that ceruzzi, because I think that's a really cool way to do it.
Wes, I got another question for you.
Very good.
While using cedar, I make these slots, a 3/8 inch hole from the drill press. Then I use the router and travel about 3.5 inches down. Now, after a little bit, sometimes it clogs up. The slot is all filled up and I have to tap it all out. And I was wondering, my 3/8" router bit. I've heard of these spiros, up feed, down feed, all sorts of things, combos. Is there anything to do with that species of wood? I know it's oily, but is there anything more other than adding air to the situation that would help me move along rather than having to clean all those out all the time?
Your spiral bits are really good at helping clean out your slot, but unfortunately, they are not foolproof either. Same old thing, you just gotta to deal with it, and keep your air handy, a little air nozzle on there to blow out your chips and your waste and keep it clean. A spiral bit, they're not foolproof either. I have a couple of spiral bits and I use them from time to time. I don't use them totally because I just keep my air handy, and when you do the thing that you're talking about, tipping them over and tapping it out and stuff like that, I do the same thing. No different.
It's just no shortcuts, Jeff.
Sometimes there are no shortcuts. Absolutely true.
At least I can say I'm as good as Wes in one thing.
Very good. That's another thing is that everybody wants to know, okay, how can I sand faster? No. Sanding is part of woodworking that is so important. How good your finish is, how good your finished product is how good you do your sanding. And there's just no shortcuts. Just get in there and do the work, because that's what makes the job perfect when you get all done. And there are no short way around it. You got to do the work.
How about a lot of your power tools that you use, your handhelds? Do you favor a certain one, or do you once again read the reviews and test things out and see what works and get that one? Or are you like some people want to go for the battery because the batteries are all the same, so they all go with DeWalt or something like that? The ecosystem,
Yeah. No, I really just kind of follow the reviews. Also, price is important. For my handheld drills, I have had Makita battery-powered drills for years. They've served me well, and so when my old ones wore out, I bought more Makitas. But I have DeWalt routers, and I have a Bosch jigsaw. I now have a Makita cordless jigsaw, but I usually go with what the reviews tell me is the best that I can afford to buy.
Yeah, Dave here. I just jumped in a little while ago. You were talking about the DeWalt planer, the benchtop. I've got the same one I think everybody else has. And I too got tired of those knives and replacing those straight knives all the time because they were nicking and chipping. And I invested in that helical head upgrade kit.
Yes.
From Bird Tools.
I've seen it.
About $400. And that's just the best darn thing I ever did.
They are great. I love a helical head. They make such a difference in the way a planer works. Nice, smooth, even cuts. There's just no better way to go when it comes to a benchtop. If you can make the jump, the old straight knife cutters are okay, but they're just not the quality that a helical head is.
Yes, and I thought an advantage is that if you ever do get a nick, of course, you can rotate the head to have the nick in it, and you don't have to replace an entire knife or set of knives.
Yes, absolutely. It's a great advantage.
This is Scott. Who was that did the helical upgrade? Was that Dave?
Dave Carlson.
Okay. Yeah, because I have that same planer like everybody else. And, it works well. And when those knives are brand new, they work quite well. But yeah, I hear you on the chipping and nicking and replacing them all the time. And I did my small box out of hickory, and that stuff's harder than heck on planer knives, but it was fun.
I had some ebony, and I ran it through my planer with the helical head, and it came out smooth as butter.
Hickory is the worst when it comes to, well, I shouldn't say it's the worst, but anyway, it's one of the worst when it comes to being hard on knives and blades and things like that. It's so hard. It's beautiful wood. I like to work with it, but I don't go to there first just because it's so hard to work with. But again, pick the wood that does the best for the project you're working on.
Well, I picked the wood because it was laying there.
Been there, done that.
Hey, Wes, this is Daryl again, and you do a lot of your assemblies with the pin nailer.
Yeah.
And you fill in the holes and things. If you're doing a paint grade, do you use the same thing on like if you were using cherry or something, do you use the pins there too?
Yes, I do it more for the size of the hole than anything. But yes, if it's paint grade, I still use the little pin nailer, fill, and sand. always, like I say, how good your finish is, how good your finished product is by how good your sanding is. And so I always try to do whatever I can to end up with the best finished product when I'm done. So if it's a paint grade piece and it's something that I can use my headless pin gun on, I do, just because it leaves an easier cleanup and sand for my final finish.
But would you use that if you were assembling, let's say, a piece of furniture or something out of cherry? Would you still use the pins if you were going to be someplace where you could see them?
Again, it depends upon the place, but yes, I would absolutely use a pin gun on cherry and fill and sand. The pin gun, the one disadvantage that the pin gun has is that the pins are very short. The longest pin you can get is only about 1 1/8 inches, or at least for the gun that I have. And I have Porter cable. All my nail guns are Porter cable. I have that 1 1/8 inches length for when I'm nailing on 1/2 inch. And when I'm doing real thin pieces, 1/4 inch, I'll use a 3/4 inch headless pin. And then glue and pin, and then putty and sand.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Wes?
Yes, sir.
This is Dennis Walker. What type putty do you use to fill these nail holes?
I use Famo wood. You can buy it on Amazon, F-A-M-O, Famo wood. I have a wholesale hardware dealer that I buy my hardware from, and he also carries it. But you can buy it from Amazon, and sometimes I've seen it local paint stores or hardware stores, but that's the best wood filler that I've come up with. So Famo wood.
Thank you.
You bet.
David back here, talk about cherry and filling, being blind if color is an issue. How do you get a filler that matches the wood you got?
The Famo wood comes in several different colors. The one that I like for cherry, they have a one that's called birch fir. That matches cherry the best. They have a cherry one, but the cherry one is just a little lighter than what I like. And so I like a little darker because I'm often putting a little bit darker stain on my cherry. And so I don't want that bright little spot to show up if it doesn't take the stain as well. So a little bit darker putty for cherry works the best for me. So the alder or birch fir, alder, I guess the alder is another name that it comes under. So that gives me a little bit darker color, and it matches better when I put stain on it.
Can you spell that wood? That filler?
F-A-M-O, Famo wood.
Okay.
Like I say, you can get it on Amazon. It comes in different colors, but definitely if you're doing walnut, you would definitely want to have walnut. But if you're doing your cherries and your oaks and things like that, that alder color or that birch fir color works really well for a lot of different colors that have kind of that lighter wood color, cherry, oak, ash. Ash is white. So trying to think what I would use for ash, but I think they even have one that's ash. To be quite honest with you, I haven't done anything in ash for a long time. I'd have to go back and look. But different woods, different colors, but that alder is a really good one for a lot of different medium colored woods. And then dark, use your walnut.
Great. Thank you, sir.
You bet.
One more question, going back to your small box or the birdhouse, because I just did my small box in a different one, but you use tape to put your box together instead of clamps and things. Can you explain that technique a little bit to our group?
Okay, the one that you're talking about, the birdhouse and the standard box. Now, I did the box because that is the basic woodworking start for most everything. Everything starts with a box. So I did a 45-degree corner for the corner of my box, and I turn it upside down, or the inside faces down on my bench, and so the outside of the box, and I put the sharp corners together, and I use just blue tape, and I tape it very good, really put a secured pressure on there, and then as I turn it over, I put a little glue on the inside of that angled cut, and then tip it together, and that tape holds those two sharp corners perfectly lined up, where clamps, you've got to fiddle with them a little bit in order to get everything lined up. But the tape already holds it in place. And it's amazing how strong that tape is. So I put my whole box together with what I call my blue tape clamp. I did the same with my little 6-sided birdhouse. When I made my angle cuts, I put the angle cuts down so that the sharp corners were flush on the facing up to me. And then I put blue tape on the taping those joints together, turned it over, put a little glue in the little angle cut on the inside, and then folded it together, and it just holds that glue job together with my blue tape clamps.
Well, I followed those instructions, and I got to tell you, I was I was just amazed how easy that was and how nice they actually came out.
Yeah.
Instead of fighting with all the clamps and things.
This is Scott. My box was done that way as well. In fact, Wes, I think I saw your video on that is what gave me the idea. And it worked out because I had tried it with clamps. That was no fun at all.
Right. It is amazing how well that holds. I like the blue tape just because it peels off easier, but it holds just as well. And you just fold it up like that, and that blue tape or the masking tape will hold that joint tight, and it doesn't come undone, and it just really holds the angle, the sharp corners of that cut. It holds those sharp corners so tight together that you end up with a really good corner. So yeah, blue tape clamps.
It is great.
I love old architecture. I was watching an old house that was being done, and the newel post at the bottom of the stair was an 8-sided newel post, and it was pretty fancy the way it was done. And so I'm not done with it yet. I'm just kind of dinking with it a little bit right now, but I made a 3-foot tall newel post with 8 sides, and I used those blue tape clamps down every joint, all the way down, all 3 feet. And I just ran my blue tape all the way down the 3 feet and then rolled that thing up into a column, and it came out perfect. And it doesn't really make any difference how long your joint is. As long as you get those sharp corners together and keep them even all the way up and down, you can glue a long joint together with those blue tape clamps. I'm working on that newel post, and one of these days I'll get that project. It's just a fun project I want to do someday, but just getting started.
This is Dave. If I could jump in, the blue tape thing, I've done like you. I've made 6-sided and 8-sided planters and boxes using that same technique of just wrapping the glue around the blue tape. Did you mention, because I might have missed it, whether you also tape on the inside of the box along each edge where the V is going to stick together so that you get any squeeze out, it'll go onto the tape instead of onto the wood on the inside. So then when your glue is set up a little bit, you just peel the glue tape off on the inside and it's very, very clean.
I have seen that done. I've not done it that way. Usually what I do, if I have a box that I need to have cleaned on the inside, I'll take a moist rag and just wipe the glue out so that I've cleaned it up that way. But that tape idea that you're talking about, that tape on the inside, I've seen that done and it works great. So yes, that's a wonderful way to keep your inside of your box clean, and it's easy to do.
The other thing I do, if I do get any glue that finally dries up because in spite of my best effort, it still doesn't work. I got several dental picks from my dentist for teeth cleaning that he just had old ones, and I use those to just scrape out the little crack, get the glue out of there.
Yep. A really good sharp chisel, just take it and slide it along the edge of your wood into the corner, and if you get a little bit of glue in there, don't apply any pressure because you don't want to peel up any of the wood, but just slide it in there and it will take that glue out of the corner once it dries also.
Mm-hmm.
I want to thank you on the planer. I've been listening to these guys about their 735X DeWalt planers all this time. So I was looking at that Oliver and holy cow, they make some big machines. This is their smallest, that desktop, 13-inch one with the helicoil head. That's pretty affordable, really.
It is a nice planer. I really enjoy it. But like I say, Oliver's been around for years and years, and they make really good woodworking equipment. And yes, it all the way from little teeny to huge. I had a shop that I worked at years and years ago that had a big Oliver table saw, and it was a beast, but just as smooth and accurate a saw as you'd ever want to work with. That's probably been 40 years ago, but it was a nice saw, and it was an old one, but it was just still a nice saw after all the years that it had been around. They make good equipment.
Was it older than Daryl?
Well, older than me.
Who asked you?
What's the price on that small Oliver?
I pulled it up on the website. It's about $1,100, the one I see.
Not bad. That's the price of a DeWalt, and then add the helical head.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't dig in too far. I just saw the price, but then I saw the next one. They go up into 3-phase. So I had to verify that it was 115 volt.
By the way, that helical head in the change-out process, I did it myself, but with absolutely no help, and I'm totally blind. So it's doable. They have very, very good instructions for it. It's a big, big process. You have to take a lot of your planer apart and set things aside and don't lose any hardware, but it goes in pretty painlessly, other than you need a good way to drive in the bearings in order to seat them before you put in the retaining ring again. That thing I had the most trouble with, and putting on the dry belt.
Well, thanks. That's really good to know for the future, because there's a lot of guys out here that has that machine. If they ever want to upgrade, you be the man to call.
Well, Wes, I think we're probably getting close to 8 o'clock. I don't want to keep you too long, but I sure do want to thank you because, like I said, I love your channel and you do a great job. And you did a really nice job on this call, and it will help a lot of people.
Well, thank you very much. I really enjoyed it. And like I say, woodworking is an adventure. Don't give up on your adventure, everybody. Enjoy your woodworking and have a great time. It's just been wonderful to talk to you, and hope you get to do it again sometime.
Well, you bet. Thanks so much for your time.
All right. You guys have a great day.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Wes.
Okay, Wes, thank you.
All right. Take care.
Be sure to check out WW4B.org, Woodworkers for the Blind. Become part of the community and learn from others. Hope you enjoy it, and until next time, bye-bye.
When we share
what we see through
each other's eyes, we can then begin to bridge the gap
between the limited expectations and the reality of blind abilities.
And the realities of blind abilities.